is wild.
This is incredible.
So how many times do you get to do this sort of thing?
First one. It is my first one.
Okay, so I'm gonna. I guess you're comfortable, right? Ready to give it a go?
I'm ready to give it a go. Yeah.
Okay. Rakhi, thank you so much for coming on to Brown Game Strong. It's a pleasure to have you.
Thank you for having me. I am literally so excited to be here right now.
Me too. I'm so pumped to get this conversation going. So we've been friends for how long?
Do you know what? I was thinking about it and I met you in a dance class.
Yeah.
It was just us two.
Yeah.
2018.
Yeah, I think it was us two or maybe one other person.
Was it one other person?
Yeah.
Maybe it was one other person. And then, yeah, it just kind of went from there.
Yeah.
I must have known you a little bit beforehand because it was kind of like, oh, I recognize her. But I just don't remember where that was. But
Yeah, I feel like the dance world is really small, isn't it?
It is.
Very tiny. Yeah, I remember that dance class actually very vividly. And I feel like so much has happened since then.
God, yeah, so much. I mean, to think that that was 5 years, well, coming up to 5 years ago, it's actually wild how fast that's gone.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, we've had a pandemic and we've tried to keep in touch. I know we have our regular.
We have our little brunches here and there, no, which is so nice. I always love seeing you.
Yeah. I always come back after our conversations feeling a little bit like, wow, you know, like my brain has been opened up to a different world.
Me too, because we kind of crossed the world. We go everywhere.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, it's
really
true.
nice.
And I must say, Rakhi, you inspire me. Like, you're one of my friends that I'm so proud to call a friend because I feel like I always learn so much from you. And it's beautiful to see your journey, like to witness like the healing that you're going through and the learnings. And I feel like I can sort of dip in and out and like take little nuggets out of that as well whenever I catch up with you. So
Thank
it's
you.
nice.
Thank you. That means a lot.
So I wanted to start off with your childhood and just who is Rakhi and is it Rakhi Sachdev?
It is. Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about Rakhi Sachdev and where you grew up, what influences you had as a kid, what your cultural background is, and also what your relationship with your cultural background was growing up.
Okay. So I was born in Watford. So born in the UK, born in Watford. I say that, but then I moved to Harrow, Northwest, at the age of 1. So really Harrow. And I grew up in a South Asian Gujarati family. And it was an interesting childhood, really fun childhood. I was so into like Bollywood. I was so big on Bollywood. I knew all the songs. My first film was Kuch Kuch Hota Hai, obsessed.
Yeah.
I just loved Bollywood so much. And I remember just like dancing in front of the TV. Just loved the music so much. And you would always count on me to know the songs really well.
Yeah.
Like you'd always come to me and I'd sing the whole thing from start to finish. I'd get recorded. It was just, I was very expressive as a child.
Yeah.
I love to perform for people. I love to just perform to like my teddy bear.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Was that the beginning of your dance journey?
That was the beginning. My teddy bears were my audience. I remember like putting them in line and dancing.
That's so cute.
And then that would kind of translate outwards to like, actually I was a little bit shy in front of my family. It was more people I didn't know very well that I would dance in front of. So I would do school performances all the time.
Yeah.
So I was in touch with sort of the cultural elements, the kind of, as I said, Bollywood, the kind of Indian songs, and I kind of did a little bit of Kathak as well. My mum tried to get me into Kathak, but I sort of complained that it hurt my feet. I regret it now, but I was like, I can't do that anymore. And then she took me straight into Bollywood dance classes, and that was that really.
Yeah.
Fell in love.
Yeah.
So it was an interesting start. It kind of, so just in kind of like relation to my body, I was very connected quite early on in the dance kind of manner. But then I also, again, quite early on realized that actually my body wasn't okay. So it was a mix, a really interesting mix. Started off really like playful and fun and like just living a normal childhood.
Yeah.
Being put into lots of different activities, from like tennis to gymnastics, dance, all the things. And then but then also being aware that I wasn't okay, I guess, that my body wasn't okay.
Tell me more about that.
So that was, I really vividly remember from the age of 8, I would say. Before that, I think I was just unaware. I was just having fun, a good time. Then at the age of 8, I remember just being told, well, actually being called fatty, but in Gujarati. So it sounds more endearing.
What did they say?
Jaduri sounds more endearing, but actually it's not. And because it was like my fatty, it was like, okay, that sounds really loving, but I became aware at that point that that was not okay. I just remember feeling really small, and I didn't have anyone around me to kind of say, you shouldn't call her that, you shouldn't say that to her. So I just walked away like, something's just happened, and that didn't feel right. That didn't feel good. And it's come from, a really prominent member of my family. So again, it's like, but this person's supposed to love me and accept me, Yeah. So it was kind of from that age, I then started to really realise that I was growing up in an environment that were very weight obsessed.
Yeah.
And then when I became aware of it happening to me, I also started to see it wasn't just happening to me. Other people in my family were also kind of facing the same thing. Okay. So from the age of 8 onwards, I realised my body was not okay. Well, that's what I was told anyway.
That's so poignant that you remember the exact time that it started.
Yeah, I go back there. I can go back to the actual scene.
Yeah.
It's so interesting how I do that. But I can literally see myself moving it was, in a home, and I can see myself going from one room to the other and just sitting in a corner and being like, I don't know what to do right now. I don't know how to, I couldn't defend myself. So it was like, I don't really know I don't know what to do. Yeah. It was just that, really.
It really struck me that you said you felt small, because think of the irony of that, right?
I was thinking about that. Like, physically, I'm being told I'm quote unquote big.
Yeah.
But I felt like I wanted to I wanted the floor to swallow me up. That I just felt tiny.
Yeah. And it's also something that I've noticed in, I don't know, like what your experience has been growing up in an Indian household myself. But there's always a conversation around weight. Always. It's thrown around.
Always.
Like, literally people I've not seen in ages will be like, oh, like last time I saw you, you were this high, and now look at you, and you've been eating well. You're quite healthy. But they say healthy, and it's a compliment.
Yep.
But then if you're, if you look a little bit, maybe if you've lost weight or if your body's changed in that direction, then people will be like, oh, you're not eating, you look really sullen, and you look like you don't look healthy anymore.
This is exactly what I had. And it was interesting because from the same people, it was, maybe you should do something about that. And then it was, you need to eat more. Why is there not enough on your plate? Like, you're looking ghostly. I'm like, I can't win. When you're like, you're telling me I had to let go of it. So I did that. And now you're saying eat more. Like, it was very confusing.
Yeah.
Very conflicting. So you just don't know what to do.
Yeah.
But, I think more than me receiving the ghostly, you need to eat more, I got a lot of positive reinforcement for losing weight. Yeah, I got a lot. And that was at the age of around 12. Because I was like, right, before I go to secondary school, I'm going to do something about this. Because not only was I receiving it in my home environment, I was also getting it at school.
Yeah.
So it was coming from all corners. So I was like, I can't go into secondary school and be faced with that. So I decided to take it into my own hands at the age of 12.
What did you do?
I just completely restricted certain foods, and it happened quite gradually. So it was initially, chocolates, crisps, stop all of that. And then it became cheese and all the things I thought were bad foods. And then I would exercise excessively. Yeah, I would dance for like 90 minutes in my room. And you know, it's interesting how the thing that I loved the most was now being used as a weapon, almost against me. I was like, yeah, that will make me sweat. I'll lose weight. Yeah, and then it kind of spiraled quite quickly, and eventually I was diagnosed with eating disorder, anorexia nervosa.
Mm. What was happening around you at the time? Because obviously a lot of these influences were in your family, and you said that other people also were having their own journey with, their mental health when it came to their bodies. Did you see tendencies in your family, or did you think you were the odd one out?
No, I saw I saw it happening.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone went as far as I did, but it was very much like, very little food on a plate.
Yeah.
And, this was even in the big occasions, Diwali and birthdays, so much food. Again, confusing because there's so much food, and yet you'd see plates with very little food. So I would see it very clearly.
Yeah, I definitely wasn't at that party because I load my plates.
Yeah.
The reason I attend weddings.
Well, see, this is the thing. I guess there'd be such a mix.
Yeah.
Like, it was like you have the plates that were looking healthy and you're enjoying food. And then you'd have the plates where I was like, yeah, we're just going to eat a few bits and I'll be fine.
Yeah.
And it would be kind of, people would kind of overlook that because that might be the host. So it's like, oh, they're busy running around. Da, da, da. But actually, it was very intentional,
And how does that then relate to food, for example, at home? Like, obviously in our culture, in my home, there's like food is a big topic. While we're eating lunch, we're planning dinner.
Yes.
And there's, plates of like rice and Indian food. And then there's like, foods from all sorts of parts of the world as well. So like, what was your relationship like with that element of our culture?
I'd stopped eating all the fried foods.
Okay, so no pakode, no
all went out the door, especially when I kind of entered that realm of like needing to get rid of weight.
Yeah.
It's like, right, that's it. I see that as bad foods.
Yeah.
Again, I very early on was caught onto what was considered bad just because people would talk about that around me. So all the fried foods went out the door. When it came to my mum sort of cooking Indian foods, I would say to her, like, make sure it's not oily, make sure there's less salt, make sure there's this, make sure there's that. And God, like when I think back to that, it's like, was I getting any enjoyment out of what I was eating?
No.
Because I was happy to eat the food. I just, little portions. And I literally was like, yes. So I think I may have watched her a few times to see how much oil she was putting in. Like I was that fixated on the food.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a very interesting time of my life.
So tell me then, you studied dance and movement in university. You said that when you were younger, you danced a lot, which was part of your kind of journey with your mental health, right? Maybe in a negative way at the time. What inspired you then to pursue it as your further studies and see it almost as that kind of beacon of, hope for your future?
So, especially in the throes of recovery, it was my saving grace. I had to stop doing a lot of exercise. They basically said, until you start putting on the weight, getting better, we're going to have to say no to a lot of activities that I was doing at the time. But I said, I can't stop dancing. Like, that's one thing you can't take away from me. And so I carried on through recovery. I was dancing and I was going to classes. I joined like some shows. And it was the one thing that kept me on the journey of recovery, because I knew if I'd continued to go kind of downhill, they would have said, no, you cannot do that either. So there were some very prominent moments in my recovery journey where it was like the incentive to eat was that I could keep dancing. I could, do the thing that I loved the most. I mean, that's when my body was like mine. Like, that's when I felt so connected. It's a really ironic thing because like I felt so disconnected from my body, and I didn't like my body and I wanted to change it. But then when I danced, I was so connected to it. It was very ironic. It was very much like I was happy then,
Yeah.
you know? So yeah, it was very healing for me to move my body and dance, and I knew I had to take it further. I knew that there was something about dance that I had to take with me, and I couldn't just leave it at classes.
Yeah. Yeah. As someone who dances, I completely see where you're coming from, because it's exactly the same for me. It's an escapism, isn't it? You get to be whoever you want to be.
Yes.
You don't even have to be in this world. You can be in outer space. When
you can be somewhere else. And, you know, the opinions of, you know, cultural and societal opinions just don't have a chance.
Yeah.
They
melt
don't
away.
have a chance when you're dancing. So it's a very important, like, healing modality for me.
Yeah. I'm really glad that you have dance, and I'm glad that I have dance.
I love it so much.
And it brought us together. So while studying at university, studying dance, what did you have any preconceptions about it? Did you have a certain relationship with dance before that evolved and changed at university?
University was a really interesting time because I went in pretty confident, thinking I was going to come out and become a performer. And then I completely became like the underdog. I completely became like the person who hadn't had any, I hadn't developed any skill in like contemporary, which is what the course was, contemporary dance. So I was like, what is going on and what am I doing here? That's what it sort of became. So I had to, it was really interesting because, again, the thing that brought me so much joy, like in the midst of that degree, that joy started to like go out the window. I was like, no, that can't happen because dance is my thing. Like, I can't just be here and it sucks all the joy out of my life. So I would continue with classes outside just so that I was tapping into the genres of dance that my body liked.
Yeah.
And the one thing I think with contemporary forms dance, and we did ballet as well, which I'd never done, but essentially they're very rigid and there's rules. And even in classes, my body doesn't like rules very much.
Okay, same.
It doesn't like it wants to always just go a little bit off,
Yeah.
you know, or do its own thing. So the degree was challenging. It was challenging. By my kind of final year, I had settled. I mean, it did take that long for me to settle. I had settled. I'd found my place in it. And they kind of brought in sort of like street and hip hop form. So that's where I was like, okay, we can play around now. But yeah, it was a very challenging degree. It really was.
It is like anything that you truly love with your heart that you start to pursue in a professional sense. It turns into this thing that you have to see a bit differently, right? Because it's suddenly got rules, it's got structure, and you're like, but that's the exact thing that's making me now not like it as much. I mean, I've felt that, and I'm sure a lot of people can also resonate with that feeling, you know, of like, especially being in the arts and creative spaces and suddenly like having all these rules, and it's just like, I just want to go back to creating and, you know, just flowing with it.
Yeah, 100%. And for me, that's what dance really at its core is. It's that kind of expressive, flowy, kind of do what you want with it. So as much as I love choreographic classes, again, grew up doing that, there is something very liberating about not doing choreographic dance and just literally moving your body.
Yeah. That, I think, was one of the single things that got me through living alone in lockdown in a tiny place. It was flowing, it was movement. And I now still have this when I've got a big meeting at work, right before, if I'm feeling really like, I know that just putting on some music that I like and just moving, and even if it's like the cheesiest Bollywood song, I'll just put it on, you know?
Oh, that's the best. I put on Bollywood like sometimes in the morning when I get up, and oh my God, the way my state has changed by the end of that song. And I'm like miming and like doing all the expressions, and I'm like, by the end, I feel like on top of the world.
Yeah.
And it's not even 9 a.m.
Yeah. Like I said, I'm so glad we have that escape, and it's something we can switch on.
Yes.
You know, whenever we
it's
need.
free.
Yeah.
You know, like that's the beauty of it, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. So going into our next topic, which is around body acceptance, obviously, like following on from what you were talking about your relationship with your body as a kid, what then sparked you to want to pursue that, you know, whilst working with other women and helping other women? What motivated you, and what was that one light bulb moment that made you feel like, yes, like I want to work with women now and help them with, you know, their relationships with their bodies?
I think it was, you know, coming out of, so finishing my degree in 2020 and knowing the power of movement, again, away from the rules and away from that kind of technical side of things, knowing the power of movement and knowing how we have the ability to connect really deeply with our bodies through it, it made me want to impart that knowledge. I can't gatekeep that. That's not for me to keep. Like, I knew that was something I needed to share with women.
Yeah.
You know, and I think, you know, my lived experience as someone who identifies as a woman in a female body, like, it was a very intuitive decision to decide to work with women.
Yeah.
And what I've realized through the work I've done so far is that we all feel the same thing, because we all receive the messages, right? It may land differently just depending on our own experiences, but those words are etched into our skin, and like essentially we're just trying to find liberation from it in some way.
Yeah.
You know, and we'll all journey differently, and we'll all go at a pace that suits us, but we've got the same aim. I think it feels like we have the same aim, and we're just trying to look for a release, and for those messages that we're receiving, and we receive from quite young, to just not have as much of an impact on us anymore.
So what specifically would you say is your mission statement now whilst working with women?
It's essentially to empower women to accept and connect to their bodies, you know, using dance, using other body-based practices, but essentially to do that in order to take up space, in order to show up in the world, like, fully, not hiding. You know, I think it's so easy, especially when we're in the throes of struggle with our bodies. We want to hide away from the world, and the world is missing out on our gifts.
Yeah.
It's missing out on our gifts, even if it's literally just another person. That person that may like get something from you is missing out because you feel like you can't share, and you want to hide, and you want to the world will want us to stay small. So I feel like, you know, something like dance is a radical thing to do, because it's a way to say, do you know what, I'm going to take up space right now, and you don't even have to say anything.
It's a rebellion.
It's a rebellion.
And let them just stare.
Yeah.
They probably can't do it.
No. But they might as well join in.
They might as well join it.
Might as well join in.
And we don't, you know, we don't gatekeep the dance world.
We don't, no, not at all.
That really got me thinking, because I think I'm in a like place in my life where my body's always been something that I've been it's been at the forefront of my mind. Actually, maybe not as young as 8, but I would definitely say like around 16 onwards. Fluctuated a lot. Metabolism changed over the years. Lockdown happened. Kept dancing throughout. Kept wearing crop tops. Didn't care. Shared it. And now I'm at a stage where, and I messaged you about this because I think this is a topic that is really close to me. I think often, like, you know, you follow people like Jamila Jamil, or, you know, other people who are like radical body positivity advocates. And I think there's a lot of controversy now around that term, because body positivity sounds very intense. It sounds like we must accept ourselves exactly as we are. You know, shame on everybody who tries to go to the gym and tries to lose weight.
That's done quite extreme,
right? And then, but like, I was fully buying into that for a long time. I was like, yes, like, love your body. I kept eating more, and then one day I was like, oh my god, I hate myself. And it's a very personal journey I've been through. And on the other hand, you have all these fitness influencers. You know, I follow this one called Ruba Ali. She's incredible.
Oh, okay.
Incredible. She lives in the Middle East, and she does all these really power, high intensity workouts, but her content is like very, very cool. And she's one of the few that I like really look up to, because she doesn't, I guess she doesn't have that like typical like palatable shape, but she's very fit and she's very, very toned. But it's more the act of the workouts that I like watching. It's what she's actually doing to like improve her fitness and health. And so I think for me personally, it's like now about what makes me happy is actually the act of trying to be fit, eating healthy, the act of going to the gym, rather than trying to see the results. But obviously a huge part of me is like, I want to look a certain way. And so what I find at the moment is there's no in between. You know, there's no, that space is so gray, and nobody really, because it's not interesting. It's not clickbaity enough to talk about.
Yeah.
But I want to talk about it because I'm sure there are a lot of people like me, maybe like you, who are in a phase where they're trying to learn to love themselves as they are, but also not take away that motivation to be a better version of themselves, whether that's mentally, physically, whatever that is for them.
Yeah.
How do we navigate that space?
That's a really interesting point, and I agree with you. I think it's all become quite extreme. It's either love yourself fully and, you know, your body's amazing and you know, or it's kind of the other, like, you know, you need to look a certain way.
Yeah.
It's really valid, I think it's valid to want to change your body. And the reason I say that is because we are given those messages all the time, you know? So to kind of completely step away from that, like, it's going to feel really hard.
Yeah.
But that's why I see all of this work as exploration and having curiosity.
Yeah.
Because, you know, I think even when it comes to like these really kind of hard and fast workouts, which I also loved and I still think they're amazing. However, when you begin to start connecting to your body, you also start to learn what it needs and what it doesn't. And that's really individual.
Yes.
It's not a one size fits all, which is what these fitness influencers will kind of, it seems like you do the thing they do and you'll be great.
Yeah. With their incredible genes that.
Like, you'll be great. But actually, like, it could never be one size fits all.
No.
Because, you know, I know for me, I've started to work with my cycle. So I know that, like, just finishing my period, I have that a lot of energy so I could do the hard and fast things. But then as we're entering sort of the luteal phase, just before the bleed, like, I need to slow down. Let me just be on the mat and stretch, like go for walks, you know? So I think the part of my work that I feel is really instrumental is the connection to the body part. And when we don't accept our bodies, we don't want to connect because we're numb to our bodies. We're numb. All we're kind of thinking about is, but I need it to look a certain way. And if it's not doing that, we remain numb to our bodies.
Yeah.
Because we don't like them and we don't want to do anything. We don't like, we'll just keep going and going and not really understanding it, you know? Because our bodies speak to us literally all the time.
They do. I'm learning that
all the time.
but also the question is, why do we want to look a certain way? What is it? Because it's not the fact that we want to look a certain way just for the sake of it.
No, it's not. I think it really goes back to when you first started hearing a message that you have to.
Yeah.
As I said, for me, it was, you know, it wasn't actually societal messages, as in I didn't look at magazines and watch TV and think, oh, I need to look like that.
Like Britney. I mean,
no,
I don't even want to try to look like Britney.
Loved Britney, but I never wanted to look like Britney.
Yeah. However,
those societal messages, you know, they come into the homes and they become part of culture, you know? And that's, so as, you know, as I've said, like for me, it was hearing that message at home and also knowing what was glorified was a slimmer aesthetic. And therefore feeling like that's what I have to do.
Yeah.
So, you know, a large part of this kind of radical body acceptance movement is also unraveling the messages. Yeah. And that's not going to happen in a day. That's not going to happen in a month, a year. That will take perhaps as long as it has taken to like learn them and then move through with those messages within us. It's going to take a long time.
Not only that, but I also feel like the way that we behave towards others is very important because we all form society, right? So like we always complain, oh, society this and society that.
Yeah, but
I am society.
We are that.
So, and like, I mean, I can count the number of times I may have like involuntarily judged people or said something that I would hate if someone said that about me. You know, and I've thought back and reflected and been like, no, Mitali, that's not nice. And when it comes to, you know, validating certain people's physique, even now, like I just mentioned someone and I was like, yes, great physique. And I'm like trying to, you know, not do that. But also like, why should we judge people or like judge or kind of base our opinions on people based on how they look? Because that is not always something that's under their control.
No.
It's genetic, it's unique. They might be going through something, you know, I don't know, like it's really hard, I feel, to shift that kind of mentality, because when I think about it, like look at the TikTok generation we're in, right? I see on my For You page, I see a lot of women who look very similar. They have like curvy bodies, but like slim waists. That's still like a, you know, that's what kind of keeps getting the views. And so it keeps getting reinforced by the algorithm. And those are the people that then go on to become influencers because they're getting the traction. And so I find that it's almost like even now, and it probably might be even getting worse, I don't know. On one hand, you have like people who like love yourself, and then you have a whole community of mainstream people who kind of elevate people who look like that.
Right.
And I mean, you know, celebrities, we talk about the Kardashians all the time.
Right.
And a lot of it isn't natural. That's a whole other conversation. But it just makes me think, what am I doing as an individual, right, to change that? And is everyone around me aware enough as well that they're trying to change this? Because if we don't collectively change it, I'm going to continue thinking that my body's not good enough because I'm not likable. And that's really hard for me.
Yeah.
How do you navigate that? Like, because I know you are further along in your journey than I am.
Yeah, but you know, sometimes I don't even think it's about being further along. I think it's more about the openness to keep exploring what you're saying, because you're really aware. You're really aware of the fact, and I think it's just exploring what it would be to not be so fixated on aesthetic.
Yeah.
What would it be to see my body as a vessel of just power and joy and pleasure and this thing that carries me day to day? Like, you know, in order to sort of shift away from the aesthetic, which we will not 100% completely do, it's not like a foolproof, right, that's it now, I'm good, I'm neutral about my aesthetic. Like, it will
Speak for yourself, right? I'm healed. I'm leaving this room.
No, because just because I'm doing this work does not mean I'm 100% like, like I don't even focus on my aesthetic. Like, it's all about just how powerful my body is. No, and I would be lying to you if I said that.
Yeah.
I'd be so out of integrity. It's not the fact.
Yeah.
But it's almost that thing of, where are you putting your energy?
Right.
So when it comes to these influencers, I don't follow them.
Good. I mean,
I just don't. I don't judge anyone who does.
Yeah. Neither.
But every time they just show up, they just happen to fall on like ads or something. I just see
they're right
them
in front of you.
They're right in front of you. I'm like, oh, like I will get annoyed. I'll get frustrated.
Yeah.
Because it reminds me of the things that they advocate.
Yeah.
And they're such a big platform, and they're responsible. They've got a responsibility.
Yeah.
And young girls are looking at them, and that's what worries me most.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's more this just whole rebellion of, how about today I just focus on like how incredible my body is. Again, we're not talking aesthetically.
Yeah.
The fact that we wake up every morning, get to do what we do, whatever that is during the day, and go back to sleep at night is an incredible thing. So like, it's that really slight shift of focus on what it is our bodies are allowing us to do, that kind of helps us connect to it in a really different way, I think.
Absolutely. I think I dip in and out of that, because I have moments where I'm like, yes, my body is a temple and it's a vessel and all this. And then other times I'm just like holding my stomach in front of the mirror, you know?
Yeah.
I see a lot of people, speaking of influencers, speaking of the internet, I see a lot of YouTubers, because I watch a lot of YouTube now, and see a lot of YouTubers who are palatably looking very palatable, and they're talking about body neutrality.
Oh,
and they're
interesting.
like, love yourself, you know, live your best life, this, that. And it's like, but you look like that.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but then I'm feeling
Yeah.
inspired by them, and I'm like, but I don't look like that. I don't have that privilege that they have, that they're coming from.
Yeah.
Sometimes they acknowledge their privilege,
I was
which is
gonna
good,
say, I think that's an important thing.
but they're benefiting from their privilege.
Yeah.
They have the platform because because of their privilege. So
Yeah. Well, this is the thing. Like, privilege is on such a spectrum, because I would say I'm living in a privileged
so
body.
am I. Yeah, we
You
all are.
know,
To an
we all
extent.
are. You
Yeah.
know, fat phobia is real out there.
Yeah.
And uh, yeah, I have noticed that I have biases that I have to look at.
Yeah.
You know, I've become aware of that, you know, even recently. And I'm like, okay, we're going to have to take a moment to, you know, even the word fat, because I was called fat, it has such a heavy meaning that I've had to really loosen up, because all it is it's just a descriptive
It's a
word.
fact.
It's a fact.
Yeah.
But because that has such heavy connotations behind it,
Yeah.
every time you hear that word, like, I know I used to just be like, oh,
I still feel like that.
right.
Like, I feel like I'm
okay.
offending, like, you know,
Yes.
society by
But
saying
it's
that
not
word.
an offensive word. Like, when we really think about it and strip all the other meanings, you know, off of it, it's not. So I think this is really like heavy duty work, to be honest. And I understand if women don't want to enter that work and do this work, because it's really heavy duty,
Yeah.
to be honest.
Yeah.
And it is going to take having a complete overhaul on our belief systems based on what has happened and other stories we've collected growing up.
10 years from now,
Ooh.
what?
How old? 37. Oh, God.
I'll be older, don't worry. What hopes do you have for young girls, for women at all ages, for men, for everybody, you know, for people? What hope do you have for society when it comes to our relationships with our bodies and how our bodies will be accepted in the mainstream?
That everyone kind of knows that they exist in a good body. And not good, I don't mean good like it looks great and it's aesthetically pleasing and it's ticking all the boxes, but more that they just live in a body that allows them to live their life.
What do you think will actually happen?
Do you know what? I actually can't say, because, and the reason I say this to you is because whilst there's lots of us doing this work here, there's just as much of influencers and other people doing the complete opposite. And now that we have like TikTok and, you know,
There'll be some other like holographic stuff.
There'll be something else. And it's like, what messages will be pushed by the algorithms? And will it ever be the nuances and the in-betweens and the things that don't sound so great all the time? They're not, you know, they're not like, oh yeah, that's amazing. Clickbait, let's go.
They're not
push
punchy.
it. No, not juicy.
Yeah. But also, we also have to remember that, you know, organizations, companies, they're working actively every day to make us feel more insecure, because that's how they reel us in, bring us in.
Well, this is it.
Yeah.
Like, they're profiting off our insecurities. And this is why I really think of, you know, this work of radical body acceptance as just pure exploration and experience.
Yeah.
I.e. to experience what it could be. Not necessarily that once, you know, you've danced and you've engaged in certain body-based practices that help you connect, that you're suddenly sorted. Because you may experience it and then you walk out into the world and you see something. We don't get away from these things.
No, and then you might be back to square one.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. But you feel you might be back to square one, but you're not.
Yeah, because you've done the work.
You've been moved by the experience.
Yeah.
So something has shifted inside of you. So you're not the person that like prior to doing the work. You have progressed. And I want to say that to you. Of course you have. Like,
no, this chat has come at the perfect time, honestly. And I really hope that, like, I hope that people listening also kind of take something positive out of this, because I do feel like we all have insecurities, and we're all dealing with them every single day, every second of the day. You know, the smallest thing will happen. I will walk past a mirror and something will happen. Like, I'll feel triggered.
Yeah.
Or, you know, one day I'll do something really positive and then I'll be thinking about my body, you know, about what my body could be like, or this, that, and like the impact this workout just had on me. And I just wish I didn't put so much importance on the physical and more on like appreciating what it does. And I do try that, because what you mentioned about, you know, tracking your cycle and kind of working along with your cycle. I shared something on the Instagram page stories recently about Period Power, the book by Maisie Hill.
Yeah, I haven't read that yet.
It's all about what you're saying, like tracking, you know, your energy levels based on your hormones, because our bodies are, they're machines. They're like clockwork. They're programmed in such a specific way. And because we don't understand them, suddenly it's like we think that it's all going wrong, but actually, no, it's our body screaming at us. What I like in that book is, so what you were saying, you used a very scientific word, but the phases right before and after your period. And they use, so Maisie talks about them as seasons.
Yeah, I love that. I love
that
talking about them, the autumn. So luteal, what I said as luteal phase is autumn.
Okay, fine. And then your winter is your actual
winter's
period.
the bleed,
and then spring apparently is when you have the most energy.
Oh yeah, just when you finish and you feel like the badass bitch. Like, oh my God, I'm like this phoenix risen from the ashes. That's what I call it. I've risen from the ashes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And one thing that book talks about really well is like how, well, you know, the author has a PA, I think, and she says, I get my PA to like organize all my podcasts and all my like really high energy things where I need to be really switched on during my spring. And I think that's actually a really simplified and really easy way to understand your body, because I mean, not all of us have that ability to like manage.
No, it's difficult. It's such a navigation.
But things like even working out, like I'll be like, if I'm on my period and I'm not feeling right, like let me just not.
Let me rest.
Yeah. And it's okay. Like resting is fine. You spoke about your radical body acceptance work that you're doing. Tell me a little bit more about your entrepreneurship journey, because I know that you were working and doing it as a side hustle, then you took it as a bit, you know, longer kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean,
what's that been like?
It's such a journey. So when I finished my degree, that was in the heat of COVID, and trying to find a job in general was really strugglesome.
Yeah.
I did land a job with my university part-time. And when that was 3 days a week, so I was like, I have time to work on something. And I knew I wanted to build something of my own. So I started sort of exploring this idea of like online workshops and group things. And I had time to do it. And also everyone was online. So it was like, it was a good time to start getting that out there. And so that happened sort of end of 2020 through to 2021. And then I kind of stepped away from what I was doing, which was essentially the idea of exploring sensuality, because I knew I hadn't quite touched on the body acceptance part of it yet. And I was like, that's the thing I really want to focus on. So I took a lot of time to just understand what exactly I was positioning myself as, like what my messaging was. And that really took time, and work with a coach as well. It took a lot of support, who I'm still working with. And then sort of, so now all of 2022 is very exploratory with entrepreneurship, you know, putting out the idea of one-to-ones. And
so what exactly do you offer then in those one-to-ones?
So those one-to-ones were very much about offering some coaching with dance as well. So to do kind of the mindset piece, but also the embodiment piece together. However, didn't really take off. So then I started working full-time. So now we're talking end of 2022.
You're hard on yourself, Rakhi. I know you did a lot of sessions with people.
I did do sessions, but I think it was just one of those things where what I realized is that I wanted to work with people in person.
Okay. Yeah.
What I'm now offering is like a thing that you want to experience when you're in the room with somebody. So yeah, by the end of 2022, went full time, but collaborated with a hypnotherapist, a coach, and we started body acceptance workshops.
Nice.
Incredible. Like, it's been an amazing journey so far.
Mm.
And essentially that's where I'm going, is group work.
Yeah.
Because it's very powerful having women, like lots of women in a room.
Mm.
And conducting workshops. And yes, I've gone full time, which means that I have to fit in working on this business just in and around. Like I have, so it's a 9 a.m., 9 to 5, and I have like 8 a.m. CEO hours on the days I go into the office, which allows me to just focus, answer emails, do some content, like whatever it is I need to do. So and then, you know, I might use like part of the weekend as well. Yeah, it's an interesting journey. And all of that whilst trying to honor my body as much as possible.
Oh, yeah. And add on laundry, add on like
no, all the things. Oh, yeah. I mean, it's a navigation. It's a complete navigation. It doesn't always go the way I want it to go, but I'm not going to, like, I'm trying to not judge myself for that because we are human. Trying to do it all.
Yeah. And it's a privilege being able to do it.
It's such a privilege.
I think being in a position where you can share knowledge with people because of your experiences is, I see that as like such a thing to be grateful of.
So amazing.
Yeah.
Like, it's so amazing just because I think back again to 8-year-old Rakhi.
Yes.
And she is like beaming at me. Like
oh my God.
She's looking up at me like, just
like big sis.
So yeah, big sis. Just so happy. And then I think to like 13-year-old me when I got the diagnosis, and again that teenager, a little bit more like rebellious, but you know, she's just like, wow, we're here. We're here. Like, it's
a long way.
It's wild.
It's wild. I think of Little Mitts and I cry, like quite regularly actually, like because I want to hold her. Like, I know it's really cliche, but it's just like, you will be okay, look at you when you're 29, you know, you'll be fine. So, but also like that little one, I think, is the reason why we're here as well. Because if we didn't have a lot of those experiences, we wouldn't have the passion and the energy to talk about what we've been through, I guess. You said you work with women a lot. Are you planning to ever expand it to men and non-binary people?
Quite possibly, yes.
Yeah.
It has been like something I have thought about. I've not delved that deeply into that thought yet and considered how that will work.
Yeah.
But, you know, I think it's one of those things where I would like to expand. I think there's a beauty in even this idea of bringing men together with women and understanding how they view each other's bodies.
Right. Yeah.
Their own bodies, sorry, with each other.
Yeah.
And what that looks like because, you know, I guess me wanting to work with women is because I understand a woman's psyche.
Right.
But it'd be really interesting to understand a man's psyche when it comes to body, because of course they also receiving messages.
Absolutely.
You know, we can't deny that and close our eyes to that because it is happening.
Yeah. Probably more so in more sinister ways. Because I think like this whole conversation is so widespread when it comes to women.
Yes.
You know, but what about all the other people out there? Because I do feel like there's not enough, and maybe there's still an element of shame. It's not widely spoken about. I'm sure loads of people speak about it now, but it's still, you know, you might speak to the men in your life and realize that maybe they've never had a conversation before about their body and their relationship, and maybe they've never even processed it.
Yeah.
You know?
And I am aware of, I know men in my orbit who struggle.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because, I don't know how much they really speak about that with the other men in their life. Like the way we will happily talk about, you know, how we're feeling about our bodies. It just may not be a conversation for them.
No, exactly. And even when you think of like gym culture and eating chicken and rice and beans, and you're just like, wow, like you're doing this for a 6-pack. Okay. But like, let's talk about it. Why do you want a 6-pack?
Yeah. What's the
I mean, I'm super generalizing right now, but yeah.
No, but yeah. I understand the gist of it.
So speaking of sort of male and female, obviously you work with a lot of feminine energy. And I feel like the term hustle culture is super, let's say, like masculine in its energy.
It is.
Right? Very like, go, like wake up 5 a.m., do this, that, and the other. Oh my gosh, I bought into that for so long.
How was that?
Yeah, I loved it at the
Okay.
time because
Yeah.
I was living in this fantasy world of like, I'm gonna be on Forbes and I'm gonna do this, that, and then I realized mental health and all these other things. So yeah, I think what I wanted to ask you around that was obviously working with a lot of feminine energy. You also exude like this incredible feminine energy, and I wonder how that works with entrepreneurship, being your own boss and, running your own business with this energy that you bring.
That's so interesting because I think of myself as quite masculine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like I've even noticed it in my relationship. I'm like, okay, we need to just sink into the feminine, but right now, like, let's not. And the reason that I feel like that is because I think I developed such a hyper independence growing up, also being the oldest. Yeah, that whole thing.
Yeah.
The oldest sibling, yeah. But I really enjoy both aspects in business.
Okay.
It is a navigation. It's a constant navigation, work in progress. But I love the put out things, go and facilitate a workshop. I love that element of it. But I really am aware that in order to be in integrity of my work, I also need to rest. Yeah. Because I'm putting out this idea that rest is good.
Absolutely.
So if I'm putting that out there as a message, for me to then not rest is really kind of off-brand. It's really a bit like, okay, so she's telling us all to rest, but she doesn't rest.
Yeah.
And actually, because I listen to my body so much more now, I know when I need to do it. So, for me, even if I'm working from home, and it's during my 9 to 5, I might just take 10 minutes to be on the mat and stretch.
I take a nap.
Yes, naps are I'm not used to them yet, but I really want to get accustomed to naps.
Good. Give it a go.
But see, this is what I mean. Like, rest doesn't have to be like a whole day gone. Also, it can be a whole day gone, but it doesn't have to necessarily be. It can literally be 20 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. Just listen to your body, right? Couple of last questions for you, Rakhi, before we wrap up. First one being, if there is anybody listening who is having struggles with their relationship with their body, they don't like themselves, what would you say to them?
Okay, well, firstly, it's really valid. Let's validate that feeling, because I think it's really easy to feel alone as well. Definitely not alone, because there'll be just so many women feeling the same. But when you're sort of looking at yourself in the mirror, you're in the confines of your bedroom, wherever you are, you might just be like, it's just me that feels like this. Everyone else is great, dandy. I would say seek support. And if that's not, like a therapist or a coach, like if you don't want to go as far as that, even just from people around you who are going to lift you up, but also not talk about your body. Like, let's not be around the people who actually are not going to, when they see you, they're not saying to you, oh, you've lost weight. Oh, something. It just takes me back to all the times that's happened. But yeah, it's sort of like being around the people who aren't looking at your body and like immediately commenting and just actually asking how you are as a person, as a human. And also doing things, I feel like, that are going to lift you up and bring you joy that isn't based on your aesthetic. And there's so many things out there that we can do that has because I think what happens when we are in this struggle is that becomes all that we think about. And there's so much of life that we don't experience then and we shut away from. So I think it's actively doing and being part of other parts of life.
Yeah. Not giving it the importance that it's taking up sometimes.
Yeah. And not denying the feeling, though. Not denying what's happening for you.
Yeah.
Because I think that makes it then come back with a vengeance.
Yeah, it comes stronger.
It does. So I think, not denying it at all, but just knowing that you can still enjoy life.
Yes. And the last question for you is, Rakhi, what do you have strong game in?
Oh! Well, I dance pretty well.
She does. I can vouch for this.
No, yeah. I mean, let me not go back on what I just said. Strong game. I love that question. I have strong game in holding space for women. And I think what I love about being able to do that is that I feel just as seen as I'm seeing them. It's an exchange that's happening, and it's a very quiet one. But I guess the things that I crave, i.e. community, like I get to be part of that as much as they get to be part of a community.
Yeah. I literally love that. So thank you for sharing space with me today.
Thank you. This was amazing.
This was really wholesome.
It was
go
amazing.
home and just feel like, I can conquer the world now. But no, thank you so much for your time and for coming on. And I'm so excited for everything you are doing and everything you're going to do. You are a beautiful, wonderful soul, and we're lucky to have you.
Thank you, my love. Thank you for having me. This was incredible.
Thank you.